What's up everybody, Arrg the Pirate here, and today I'm going to take a quick look at Fade to Silence, an early access survival game that released today on Steam.
Cold, pale flesh, a feast for maggots. But the maggots have to wait. I'm not finished with you. Not yet. You failed. I triumphed. A new cycle begins.
Now, with what seems to be a trend with survival games, they just throw you in there with no direction at all. So in this video, I'm going to kind of shed some light on a few things that I've found out, but I am by no means an expert. This is the first, 4 or 5 hours I've spent with the game, and I've really only spent it in the beginning. Now, you get 6 lives in Fade to Silence, and they're represented by the flames. Now, if you look, there are 2 other claves that could have flames in them, so I'm thinking you might be able to gain lives back when you die. But one great thing about when you die is you spawn back in this room, and when you spawn back in, you still have your full inventory, everything like that. So it's not quite that hardcore survival where if you die, you're dead, or you have to go pick up your stuff. It's nothing like that. You spawn back in this room, and you have all of your items. So, I gotta say, I really enjoy that. Now, right after you spawn in, you get into your first engagement with one of the more common enemies. And there's really 2 pretty common enemies. This is one of them. There's another one that spits things at you, so a melee and a ranged, I guess. And you end up picking up a torch and then fighting this enemy. Now, the lock-on is, it's pretty decent, but when you lock onto an enemy, you go from walking fast to walking very, very slow. And I have found that if you can kind of master the trick of not locking onto enemies, fights seem a lot easier. But if you do lock on, you're guaranteed going to hit them unless, they stagger you or something like that. There is a block feature, which I didn't even realize there was a block until I went and rewatched this, and I went, hey, there's a block in this. So I haven't used it. I don't know if it works well, but hey, here's what it is. Now, you do run into these little corrupted areas, and when you go to them, you absorb the corruption. And again, guys, it's a survival game. They don't tell you anything. So in some way, you're dealing with this demonic voice that's in your head. And there are a few of these little demonic areas scattered around the map, and you do go, kind of do the same thing, and it sanctifies an area. It really, guys, it's pretty vague about what it actually does, but again, you kind of run around. It's a survival game. You're going to figure things out. Now, just like most other survival games out there, there is crafting, but it's fairly simplistic. You've got a campfire, a shelter, food, tools, healing stuff, as well as weapons and, armor and basically equipment. So, it really is very simplistic, and the items that everything require can be found just kind of from scavenging. Just like in most other survival games, scavenging for items is key in Fade to Silence, but it does have this cool little hunter's sight feature where you can look around at an area and it will make items glow. And you can just go, pick up that item or say, hey, I don't need any more of those. Things like that. And it makes it much easier. Now, there's green items, which are really just your basic necessities. There's yellow items, which are kind of key things. If you get Hunter's Sight. I'm not exactly sure what it's called. It might be called Hunter's Sight. But if you look at a deer, which, you know, deer's something that you can kill for food, that glows yellow, as well as there are item packs laying around in the map that glow yellow, and you can see just in front of me there is a deer. Now, very close when you spawn in, you saw this is just right outside the front door, basically. There is a deer there. Now, every other time I've played, and like I said, I've restarted the game probably 8 or 9 times, and every other time I've played, the deer disappears and doesn't come back. So I don't know if, there's a timer on it or not, but I've only seen him show up once and then he's gone. You can see there, I picked up one of these item packs that's just laying around throughout the world, and you just kind of run around. At the beginning of the game, it's very important to run around. You really want to pick up that pristine wood so you can build that bow, so you can actually kill an animal and, get some meat to survive. Now, by pressing M, you can pull up a map, and this will show you those hunting grounds, those logging grounds. I believe there's like a copper mine as well, and those corrupted areas. It really just shows you the different areas as well as the safe houses that you found. So pressing M is huge, and it doesn't really tell you that, but it does work, guys. Throughout the world, there are corrupted totems, and you can just simply go over there and absorb the corruption. Now, you are warned to not become corrupted yourself, which I would assume that if you just go up to it and don't click anything, you'll probably become corrupted. You can kind of see like your health bar at the bottom and it slowly goes red. I'm sure you maybe it gets a little faster later on, but it's fairly easy at these beginning stages. And sure enough, you create or you take over and cleanse this totem, and you're able to pick up a couple of these essences. Now, these essences are used to create potions, things like that, and you remove the corruption from the area. It's not really explained much beyond that, so once I get a little more time in, I can definitely figure out what the point of taking over these corruption areas is. But right now, hey, just take them over and pick up those essences to actually create those potions and things like that. Now, we need to talk about surviving. Now, there are 2 aspects to surviving. You have your food and your chill factors. And these can be kept track of by those symbols in the top right of the screen. You have your spoon and fork crossed, as well as that little snowflake symbol. And then it also has the degrees that the world is currently. So you can see I'm getting a little colder and I'm getting a little hungrier. Fade to Silence does have a night and day cycle, which the night so far hasn't been any harder. It just makes it a little bit harder to survive because it gets colder, which we'll kind of talk about that survival type stuff in a minute. But of course, when it's colder, you're going to slowly die when it gets cold. So you definitely want to find some shelter, and you can always sleep through the night. Now, you can build a campfire and put it down anywhere within the world and sleep at that campfire, but that's not always the smartest idea because a blizzard can start. And you see here, there's a blizzard going on outside, and, you definitely want to stay warm because, you can freeze to death. So, building a campfire just out in the middle of the woods is not always the best idea. Now, you can build a temporary shelter, which will help with that. But having the right tools and resources to build that temporary structure, that's kind of a big deal as well. So it's best just to stay close to those little safety areas or those little campsites and kind of know where they all are. If you use that hunter vision, they show up as a big blue line in the sky, and that's where that shelter is. So they're pretty easy to find, as well as using M to pull up that map, and I wish I would have known that the first few times I was attempting this. Now, one of the best ways to get food I've found is to kill deer. And deer are kind of walking around in those assigned areas. If you go ahead and pull out that mini-map, you can see where those hunting grounds are. And one thing that's really cool is if you shoot them, they leave blood trails, and I just think that's awesome. And, you can go ahead, pick up that raw meat and those tainted remains, things like that. Now, tainted remains, once you get a follower that can process those, you can actually use tainted remains to make more food, which, you know, hey, that's absolutely amazing. And I have not found a follower that can do that yet, but since we're talking about followers, let's actually talk about them. Now, whenever I was running around and exploring, I found that star located on the map, and you can even see it in that top compass in the middle of the screen. And of course, you know, hey, I'm an explorer, I gotta go explore things and figure out what that is. And it looks like one of those corrupt totems. So I go ahead and head over to it, and it's kind of that simple thing, you know, hey, let's take over the corruption. You can see I'm hitting the button, then there's those little worm things attacking me, which I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to the worm things. I don't know if you can even kill them. I just go ahead and take over the corruption, and, you know, once you do, they disappear. And hey, what do you know? A man falls out of this one, and this happens to be my first follower.
How did you wind up wrapped in hellvines?
It was an accident, not something one does for fun. Much obliged.
Happens to the best of us.
As planets move relentlessly, most would have kept walking. But you halted your orbit and fought. In any case, I won't re-replicate this experiment.
Wait, you've done that before?
A story for another time, perhaps.
Fair enough. I could use another pair of hands in my camp, and, I'd like to hear that story.
I could use a sanctuary.
Now, one thing the follower is used for is creating your base, and this is done by going back to your spawn area or that main location when you first spawned in, and you can actually you can fortify this area. There's also, you know, workshop, sledding kennel. There's just a few things that you can build, and other followers can work on them. You know, there's a metalworking shop where you can build better tools, things like that, and then you can assign a follower to not only build the structure, but to actually work in the structure. And when you do have a follower, they will go out and pick up resources on their own until you tell them to specifically do something. Now, your main base does come under attack from these monsters every once in a while, so you definitely want to put up some walls, things like that, before you start building actual structures that, you know, can help you out. And that's exactly what I did right here is, you know, I built some walls, or I put them up. Once you put them up, then you need to assign a follower to actually work on them. Now, this can be simply done by going up to the structure, clicking E, and then assigning the follower to build that structure. And as long as there are enough materials to build the structure, they will. Now, I'm not exactly sure how they get more materials. If they don't directly pull them out of your inventory, although sometimes on certain things they do. That's one of the things that I'm definitely going to have to work on. Hey, if y'all end up picking up this game, maybe y'all can help me out with that as well. But they will start working on those structures, and they'll build all of them as long as they have enough material. Now, wood is hugely important within Fade to Silence, both firewood and pristine wood. And this can be picked up by non-corrupt trees. And you can also look on your minimap to find areas where there are not corrupt trees. You simply just chop them down, and as long as you stand in the right spot, you can actually loot the tree and pick up that wood. Now, it doesn't matter what size tree that you cut down, I've found all trees drop 1 pristine wood and then a handful of firewood as well as tainted wood, which if you have a woodworker, you can use tainted wood to actually create firewood and pristine wood. But as of right now, I don't have a woodworker. But you can see, you can chop these trees down, get that pristine wood, and then pristine wood is used to build structures, things like that. And you need quite a bit of it. Now, I have not played long enough to find out if these are renewable resources, but I would assume they are, because if they're not, you would never have enough wood to actually create anything. So, you know, definitely chop down those trees, build that axe, build that bow. Those are kind of the things you need to start out with, and then start collecting that pristine wood. Now, you can turn pristine wood into firewood. Guys, don't do this. I did it a few times, and then, you know, when I actually needed pristine wood, I didn't have any. Definitely keep pristine wood. You definitely will use this. Now, after chopping a few of those trees down, you see I head back to my base, and my gate is actually put up. So, you know, hey, I figured out how to do this. The reason I didn't assign him to build everything is because I wasn't sure if he was actually going to do it. He is a hunter, and, you know, I was assigning him to do woodworking stuff, but he can definitely, you know, this follower can definitely do more than just hunt. But if you don't have him assigned to something, he will just automatically hunt, and he will fill up that loot box that's at the beginning or in your main camp. There is a chest there. He'll have it completely full of meat and bones and everything like that. So get him, put him to work, guys. Get him building walls and things like that. And again, you just simply go up to them, assign him to do the work, and, you know, hey, he gets to work. And you can see here that blue line, he's actually working on building this wall, and he builds it all the way up until 91% complete or something like that. And then he just walks away because, hey, I ran out of material. Now, he will go back once he gets the material he needs. He will go back and finish that wall up later. So you don't have to reassign him to it, or at least I didn't. And you know, so he will complete it. He just has to wait until he gets all the material required. And like I said, guys, I'm not exactly sure if I just go chop down trees and leave them there. You can see I have pristine wood, which is what I'm missing. I have pristine wood, but it's, you know, it's not getting to him. And you cannot deposit anything into that chest at the beginning, or, you know, at that main campsite. You can only take things out, so it might just take time. You know, he'll go out to the wood, pick some or, you know, go out into the world, pick some, you know, resources up, come back, finish the house. And here's that refugee's stash. You can see it's full of bones and everything else, and it's got 1 pristine wood, but we need some more. And again, guys, I don't know exactly what I'm missing here. It might just take some time. But again, I've got it. I just can't get it to him. Now, the reason you want to build some walls and some fortification is because your camp does come under attack. And you can see that big red emblem. Hey, your camp's under attack. You want to head over there and deal with it. Now, this Soul Ripper shows up, and he's glowing green, which I believe the ones that actually attack your base glow green, and all the normal ones are glowing red. But we're going to go ahead and beat him up, you know, pull out that trusty torch, and me and my follower are able to take him down. So, you know, definitely fortifying your area before you really start building some of those, you know, actual structures that can help you is key. Now, I also have ran into a handful of bugs here, guys. You can see we go into this building, and, you know, I'm fighting this monster guy, and he actually knocks me into this barrel, and there's nothing I can do. I was, you know, he pushed me inside of that structure, so I just instantly died, which, you know, hey, that's not that big of a deal. You do get a handful of life, so I just spawn right back in. As well as I've ran into issues where sometimes you're in combat and, you know, it just kind of crashes the game. Luckily, this has only happened to me twice, and this first time it happened whenever I'm, right at the beginning of the game. You can see it. I just slowly start to drift away. It happened another time with me as well, but the second time I was a little bit further on, and I was able to load back into the game, and I was just, since it autosaves so frequently, I was just a few steps behind. But since this was at the beginning of the game, I just went ahead and shut it down and started a new game. Fade to Silence has been an absolute blast so far. Now, I'm about 2 hours into a single game, but I've played for about 4 hours total, and just trying to get a feel for it and everything like that. It does have some things that need to be resolved, but it is early access, guys, so you have to expect that type of thing with an early access game, especially an early access survival game. But it's definitely solid, and it's definitely fun. You feel very alone. The sound effects, and you hear that monster scream, and then you can hear it like running after you, and you kind of so there definitely are some of those moments that you feel scared, but it's solid. It's very fun. I really want to get my base built up and build some of those structures, and I'm really looking forward to keep my progress up and keep building and see, the monster waves might get bigger. You might have to actually deal with one of those big ones, and oh man, I'm not looking forward to that. But so far, it's been pretty fun. And you can find this game on Steam, Fade to Silence, for $26.99 right now. It's currently on like a Christmas discount, but you can't. It's normally going to be priced at $29.99. And, for an early access game, guys, like I said, I've had a lot of fun so far, and I can definitely recommend picking this up if you're into these type of survival games. But, guys, remember, it is early access, so there are going to be some issues. If you are not into having to deal with, a few little minor problems or bugs, glitches, if a game, like you saw earlier with that glitch, if that would ruin the experience for you, don't pick it up, guys. There are quite a few areas like that, and, I have also ran into some other minor things, and not knowing really 100% what you need to do, things like that. There's really no guide. You just kind of have to figure some things out on your own. If you're not into that, don't pick it up. Wait till this game gets a full release if it does. But if you're okay with having to deal with a few of those issues and you're looking for a new survival game, Fade to Silence might be for you. Well, that's going to wrap it up, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed a look at this new game. I'm definitely going to be playing this more. I'm not really into survival games, but this scary type survival game is definitely interesting to me, and I really want to get stronger and go kill some of those monsters, because they've killed me a handful of times. But if you did enjoy, show me some love. Leave me a comment. Think about subscribing. Join our Discord if you haven't done it. We can always talk about other games in there, and, hey, drop a suggestion if you'd like me to see or review another game. I definitely have always loved reviewing games, so feel free to, say, hey, can you check this game out for me, and I will be happy to. Well, as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.